This is Vienna, 2 million people, one of the wealthiest cities in Europe, consistently ranked as the most livable city on earth. 62% of residents live in social housing or rent-controlled apartments. Average rent, €600 per month for a 2-bedroom. Corporate landlord ownership, 0.4%. This is London, 9 million people, one of the wealthiest cities in Europe. Housing crisis declared in 2015. Average rent, £1,850 per month for a 2-bedroom. Corporate landlord ownership, 31% and rising. Same continent, same economic system, same century. So what's the difference? Vienna's government decided 100 years ago that housing is a human right, not an investment vehicle. And they built a system that makes it impossible for corporations to financialize shelter. In the last 3 videos, I showed you individual weapons, community land trusts, co-ops, tenant unions. But what happens when an entire city or an entire country weaponizes policy against corporate landlords? What happens when governments stop being a spectator and becomes a competitor? 4 cities, 4 different continents, 4 governments that looked at the algorithm and said, not here. This is what systematic resistance looks like, and every single model is replicable. Vienna doesn't beat the algorithm by accident. They beat it by building a fortress. And the fortress has a name, Gemeindebau. These are not housing projects. This is social housing. There's a difference. Look at the architecture. Courtyards, libraries, playgrounds, clinics, laundry facilities built into the design. After World War I, Vienna was devastated. Housing crisis, inflation, homelessness epidemic. In 1923, the Social Democratic government made a decision. Housing will be built by the city, owned by the city, rented at cost, forever. Between 1923 and 1934, they built 65,000 apartments. Not emergency housing, permanent, beautiful, dignified housing. Those buildings are still here, still publicly owned, still renting at cost. Vienna's housing system is protected by 3 mechanisms. The city owns 60% of developable land in Vienna. If you want to build housing, you're building on city land, which means the city sets the terms. When you build on city land, the law requires 2/3 of units must be affordable, rent-controlled and social housing. Building must remain affordable for 99 years minimum. The city has right to buy back at original prices plus inflation. That last clause is the kill shot. A corporation can't flip it, can't speculate on it, can't extract value from it. The land lease makes it permanently unprofitable for institutional investors. These are semi-public developers. They can build and rent housing, but by law, profits are capped at 3.5% annually, must reinvest surplus into new construction, and cannot be sold to for-profit entities. When someone moves out of an LPHA apartment, it goes back into the pool at the same rent-controlled rate. It never enters the speculative market. If you build or buy luxury housing in Vienna, you pay a 1% annual property tax. That revenue, €190 million in 2025, goes directly into social housing construction. The rich can still buy penthouses, but their wealth funds housing for everyone else. Vienna builds 5,000 to 7,000 new social housing units every year. UK comparison, UK population 68 million. New social housing built in 2025, 6,400 units. Vienna population, 2 million, 3% of UK. New social housing built in 2025, 6,200 units. A city of 2 million is building as much social housing as a country of 68 million. I pulled the data. Here's institutional investor presence in Vienna. BlackRock residential units, 0. Vanguard-backed landlords, 0. Granger equivalent, 0. A 2024 Deutsche Bank report on European real estate explicitly states Vienna market excluded from portfolio due to unfavorably regulatory environment and lack of investment yield. They're not being noble, they're being rational. The system makes it impossible to make money, so they don't play. Homelessness rate, 0.02%, functionally 0. Housing costs as a percentage of income, 25%, versus London, 52%. Corporate landlord market share, 0.4%. But Vienna is Vienna. Rich, European, socialist history. Can this work anywhere else? Let me show you the most capital country that did the exact same thing. If you think public housing only works in socialist Europe, let me introduce you to Singapore, one of the most capitalist, pro-business countries on earth, ranked number 1 for ease of doing business, 0 capital gains tax, corporate tax rate 17%, and 80% of the population lives in government-owned housing. HDB stands for Housing Development Board. It's Singapore's public housing authority. These are not projects. These are 25-story tower blocks with markets on ground floors, childcare centres, parks integrated into design, community centres, clinics. But here's the difference from Vienna. Singapore doesn't rent. It sells. You don't own the land. Government owns all land. But you own the apartment on a 99% lease. If you're a Singaporean citizen or permanent resident, you can buy an HDB flat. Income caps exist to prioritise lower income, but 80% of households qualify. Average HDB flat price, 400,000 Singaporean dollars, £230,000. Average private condo price, 1.8 million Singaporean dollars, £1.04 million. Singapore has a mandatory savings system called CPF, Central Provident Fund. 20% of your salary goes into CPF automatically. You can use CPF funds for HDB down payment. By the time you're 30, you typically have 40 to 60,000 Singaporean dollars in CPF. That's your down payment. Government-backed mortgage for the rest. You can sell your HDB flat, but only to other Singaporeans, and only after a minimum occupation period between 5 and 10 years. You cannot sell to foreign investors, sell to corporations, rent out your entire flat for profit, sell at market rate. This is the fortress. The flat has value. You build equity. But it can never become an investment vehicle for institutional capital. Why BlackRock doesn't operate in Singapore? You can't buy HDB flats, citizen only. Can't buy land, government monopoly. Private market too small, only 20% of housing. Price controls on resales, no speculation profit. Singapore is not socialist, they're hyper-capitalist. But they decided that housing is infrastructure, not an asset class. And here's the key. The government is the landlord, not charities, not co-ops, the state, which means it scales. But both Vienna and Singapore had decades to build these systems. What about a city that fought the algorithm recently? Let me show you the city that went to war. Barcelona didn't have 100 years to build a fortress. They had a crisis and 5 years to fight back. Between 2008 and 2018, Barcelona's housing market became a playground for Airbnb investors. Housing converted to short-term rentals. Blackstone Group bought 1.2 billion euros in distressed assets. Vulture funds purchased foreclosed properties at 40% discount. The city was being liquidated in real time. Locals priced out. Neighborhoods converted to tourist zones. Entire apartment buildings turned into Airbnb hotels. In 2015, a housing activist became mayor. Her name, Ada Colau. Her platform, one sentence: housing is a right, not a business. In 2017, new law requiring tourist licenses for short-term rentals. Only primary residences could get licenses. Tourist zones capped at 10% short-term rental saturation, and illegal listings faced €90,000 fines. The result? Airbnb listings in Barcelona, 2016, 18,200, 2024, 4,800, 73% reduction. Those 13,400 properties returned to long-term rental market. 2020, Catalonia passed law allowing cities to force owners of empty properties to rent them at affordable rates or face expropriation. Building in Gracia district, owned by Blackstone subsidiary, empty for 3 years, holding for value appreciation. City issued notice, rent at affordable rate or face forced purchase. Blackstone sold to City, building converted to 42 social housing units. Purchase price? €3.8 million, 30% below market value. Penalty for leaving empty. That's not enough. Not yet, but it's growth while London shrinks. What happened to institutional investors? Blackstone sold €890 million in Barcelona assets between 2020 and 2023. Azora reduced Barcelona portfolio by 42%. Corporate landlord acquisition rate dropped from 24% in 2017 to 9% in 2024. Morgan Stanley Real Estate Division Memo 2023. Barcelona regulatory environment creates unacceptable risk profile. Recommend portfolio reduction. They didn't make corporate ownership illegal. They made it unprofitable, and the corporations left voluntarily. 2018-2020, pre-regulation, over 18% rental growth, 2020 to 2024. Post-regulation, over 4% rental growth. Not perfect, not solved, but the bleeding stopped. And here's what matters. The government proved it could fight. Residents saw that organizing worked, that policy works, that corporations can be beaten. Vienna built a fortress over 100 years. Singapore designed a system from scratch. Barcelona launched a rebellion in 5 years. But what about a country that just bought it all back? In 2021, South Korea's government did something no Western country has dared to try. They announced a $32 billion fund to buy housing back from institutional investors. Not regulate them, not tax them, buy them out. South Korea Housing Buyback Program, 2021 to 25. Total fund $32 billion. Target 320,000 units purchased from corporate landlords. Timeline 5 years. Status 2025, 178,000 units acquired, 56% of target. The mechanism. Step 1. Government identifies buildings owned by foreign investment funds, domestic corporate landlords, and speculative holding entities. Step 2. Makes purchase offer at fair market value, not eminent domain, voluntary sale. Step 3. Converts to public rental housing with income-based rent, maximum 30% of tenant income. Building 240 units in Gangnam, owner Goldman Sachs affiliate purchase price $180 million. Post-acquisition rent, average 40% reduction. Why did Goldman sell? Given government's stated intention to acquire 320,000 units, holding properties exposes fund to regulatory risk and potential future forced sales at unfavorable terms. Strategic exit recommended. They announced the program so big that investors panicked about future regulations and sold voluntarily to avoid being forced later. They didn't ban corporate landlords. They just became a bigger, better capitalized competitor. And the market corrected. The market didn't collapse. It rebalanced from corporate control to public control. This wasn't socialism. South Korea is a capitalist democracy. But in 2020, housing became the #1 political issue. Young people couldn't afford to live in Seoul. Birth rates were collapsing because couples couldn't afford space for children. The government that promised housing intervention won in a landslide. The policy was popular because the crisis was undeniable. When 41% of income goes to rent, people demand action, and politicians who deliver win. So let's compare these 4 models to what's happening in the UK. So, can any of this work in the UK? Let's be forensic. None of these are easy, but all of them are possible. Proposal 1. Barcelona-style regulation. Mandatory rent controls in crisis zones. London, Manchester, Bristol, Edinburgh. Empty property taxes. 2% annually on property empty 12+ months. Corporate landlord surcharge. Additional 1% property tax. Airbnb restrictions. Primarily residents only. Estimated impact? Reduce corporate acquisition rate by 40%. Return 15,000 to 20,000 short-term rentals to long-term market. Generate £800 million annually for social housing fund. Proposal 2. Vienna-style land policy. Councils acquire the land through existing CPO powers. Mandate 50% affordable housing on all new developments on public land. 99-year affordable lease requirement. Limited profit housing association model, UK version. Estimated impact? Add 80 to 100,000 affordable units over 5 years. Remove land from speculative market permanently and create legal barrier to corporate acquisition. Proposal 3. Seoul-style selective buyback. A £10 billion government fund to purchase buildings from institutional investors. Focus on areas with highest corporate concentration. London, Manchester. Convert to public or co-op ownership. Income-based rent. 30% of household income. Estimated impact? Remove 40 to 50,000 units from corporate control. Signal to the market that the government is a serious competitor. Force institutional investors to reassess UK market. Why this hasn't happened? Not because it's impossible, because it requires political will. Since 1980, the UK has sold 2.8 million social housing units under right to buy. Only 450,000 have been replaced. The UK didn't lose the war against corporate landlords. It surrendered before the fight began. The tools exist. The models exist. The money exists. What doesn't exist is the political will to use them. But political will isn't fixed, it's built. Vienna's system exists because residents fought it in 1923. Singapore's exists because the government faced a housing emergency in 1960. Barcelona's exists because activists became politicians in 2015. And Seoul's exists because young people made it the #1 election issue in 2020. The algorithm can be beaten. 4 cities proved it. The question isn't, can it work in the UK? The question is, do enough people want it badly enough to force it? Let's review. Vienna built a fortress, one brick at a time, for 100 years. Singapore designed a system, deployed capital, scaled it nationally. Barcelona launched a rebellion, fought corporations, and stopped the bleeding. Seoul bought it back. They outcapitalized the capitalists and won. And the UK is doing what exactly? UK social housing waiting list in 2025, 1.3 million households. New social housing construction 2025, 8,000 units at current rate. Waiting list to be cleared in 162 years. You don't have 162 years, but you do have something these 4 cities didn't start with. You have proof. Proof that it works. Proof that corporations can be beaten. Proof that government can compete with the algorithm. You have the individual weapons from video 3. You have the municipal weapon from this video. What you don't have is time. Because while you're watching this, BlackRock is bidding, Granger is acquiring, Lloyd's is converting. The algorithm doesn't sleep. In the next video, I'm going to show you the one force that terrifies them more than all these models combined. It's not policy, it's not regulation, it's you. Organized, informed, and done asking permission. The fight isn't over, it's going municipal. Hit the like button if you found this video useful, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.